The space station Astra 9 floated like a giant metal city in the dark silence of space. It was home to hundreds of species, traders, travelers, scientists, and dreamers, but humans were still new there. They had only recently joined the interstellar community, and many aliens did not understand humans yet. Some thought humans were weak, others thought they were too emotional, and a few simply ignored them. Among these new arrivals was Kale, a young human engineer. He had left Earth to work in the vast docking sectors of Astra 9, repairing ships and learning new technology. Kale was hardworking, quiet, and thoughtful. He lived with his girlfriend Mara, who worked in the Earth Embassy division of the station. Together, they had dreams of earning enough credits to someday buy a small home on one of the green colony worlds. Life was not always easy, but it was steady. Then one day everything changed. Kale had gone to the exchange hall, a massive marketplace where goods, tools, and labor contracts were traded. The hall was always crowded, filled with voices, lights, and the sound of different languages mixing together. Kale came searching for rare engine parts, but his attention stopped when he heard a voice calling softly. It was a human voice. A girl stood beside a merchant stall. A small holographic tag floated above her shoulder, displaying information in several languages. The words were hard to accept. Companion contract a human, debt ownership transfer valid. Her name was Lyra. She was not hurt. She was not imprisoned, but her situation was still painful. On Astra 9, unpaid travel debts could be sold as temporary labor contracts. It was legal, cold, practical, and in many cases, hopeless. Someone had exploited her situation, and now she belonged to whoever bought the contract. Kyle stopped walking. His chest felt heavy. Lyra lifted her eyes and saw him. She did not cry. She did not beg. She simply looked tired, lonely, and small under the bright lights of the exchange hall. Kale stepped closer. "Where is your family?" he asked. Lyra shook her head slightly. "I came alone. I wanted to start a life in the colonies. But the transport fee changed, and I couldn't pay. They sold my debt." Her voice was steady but thin. For a long moment, Kyle said nothing. Around them, the market moved on, loud and busy. Yet at that moment, it felt like the world had stopped. Kale thought of Mara. He thought of their savings. Their plans. The future they had sketched together. He knew what he was about to do would change everything. He turned to the merchant. "I'll pay her debt. All of it." The merchant looked surprised. "Human, it is not small. 2-year labor cost." "Many credits, I know," Kale said. His voice did not shake. He transferred every credit he had been saving for 2 years. The merchant approved the transfer. The holographic tag dissolved, and Lyra gasped as if she could breathe again for the first time in months. Kale didn't understand why he did it so quickly. He only knew he could not walk away. No human should stand alone like that. "Not in a place so far from home," Lyra whispered. Why did you do that for me?" Kale smiled softly. "Because humans look after each other. Out here, no one else will." Lyra followed Kale back to the docking sector. The corridors of Astra 9 were long and dim, with glowing lines on the floor guiding the direction of movement. Lyra walked quietly beside him, unsure where she belonged now. Kyle brought her to the small workshop in Dock Sector 6, a place full of metal tools, engine parts, and half-assembled machines. It smelled like oil and warm metal. Kyle worked there every day, fixing damaged landing modules and maintaining small transport crafts. "This is where I work," Kale said. "You can stay here during the day. I'll help you contact embassy services later." Lyra nodded softly. She watched Kale move around the workshop with practiced hands. She noticed that his tools were clean, his workspace organized, and his movements careful. He was someone who thought before he acted, which made his earlier choice even more meaningful. Kale brought her food, simple station bread, and warmed broth. Lyra ate slowly, her hands still shaking slightly. "You don't owe me anything," Kale said. But Lyra shook her head. "I do, I owe you everything. I didn't think anyone would help me." Kale looked away. "If I were in your place, I'd hope someone would do the same for me." There was silence again. But this silence was gentle. Hours passed. The artificial lighting of the station shifted to evening cycle, casting the workshop in soft blue light. Kale looked at the time and understood something difficult. He had to go home. He had to see Mara, his girlfriend, and she did not know. She had no idea that their life savings were gone. She had no idea that he had brought another human to the station. She had no idea that everything had changed in one afternoon. Kale closed his eyes for a moment. His heart felt heavy. Lyra saw the change in his expression. "You didn't tell her." "No," Kyle admitted quietly. Lyra felt guilt rise inside her. "Heavy and painful. You should tell her soon. She deserves to know." Kale knew she was right, but he also knew Mara would not understand. Mara was practical, focused, careful about the future. She did not like surprises, especially expensive ones. She would ask why. She would ask what Lyra meant to him. She would ask what they would do now, and Kale was afraid of the answers. Lyra wrapped her arms around herself. "I do not want to break your life." Kale shook his head. "You didn't. I made a choice." Lyra looked down at her hands. "Then I need to make a choice too. I can't just accept your kindness and stand here useless. I will work. I will help. I will not let your sacrifice become a burden." Kyle studied her face. Lyra did not look weak anymore. She looked determined, strong in a quiet, steady way, and in that moment Kale understood something important. Lyra did not need saving. She needed a chance, not charity, not pity, a chance to stand on her own feet again. Kale nodded. "Then let's start tomorrow. I'll teach you everything I know." Lyra smiled for the first time that day. Small, soft and real. "Thank you, Kyle." As the station lights dimmed to near darkness, Kale walked towards the residential sector. The hallways were silent now. Only the soft hum of engines and ventilation systems filled the air. Kyle stopped outside his door. He stood there for a long time, trying to find the right words, the right moment, the right way. Inside, Mara was waiting. She believed life was exactly as it had been that morning. She had no idea that everything had already changed. Kyle exhaled slowly, his hand hovering over the door panel. He did not enter. Not yet. He was not ready. The night cycle continued in quiet stillness, and the secret began. The next morning on Astra 9 began like every other day, but for Kale and Lyra, everything already felt different. The artificial station lights brightened slowly from soft blue to warm white, simulating sunrise. People of many species moved through the hallways. Some floated, some walked, some glided, and some clicked their footsteps like metallic claws. The station always felt alive, always awake, always in motion. Kyle and Lyra walked side by side through the docking sector. Lyra carried a small tool case that Kale had given her. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. Something of her own. Something that meant she was not powerless anymore. They entered the workshop and Kyle began teaching. Lyra learned quickly. She watched closely. She didn't talk too much. Her hands were steady, careful, and precise. She paid attention to every small instruction Kale gave. How to handle fragile engine panels, how to clean carbon residue, how to adjust a diagnostic scanner without overloading the cores. Kale found himself surprised. She wasn't just learning, she was understanding. There is a difference. People who only learn copy movements. People who understand see why the movement matters. Lyra understood. By mid-shift, she was already assisting him in minor repairs on a small transport craft. Kale noticed that she rarely asked for help twice. If she was shown something once, she remembered it. He handed her a thermal wrench. "You'll need this," Lyra nodded. "Yes, I can do it." Kyle leaned back for a moment watching her and felt something new inside himself. Not guilt, not regret, respect. But life on Astra 9 was not without complications. Around midday, a group of inspection officers arrived. They were from the Station Contract Authority, a division that monitored labor legality and debt registrations. They were tall, with silver-embedded crests in their uniforms and spoke in carefully measured tones. The lead inspector scanned the workshop with a small wrist device. "Human Lyra," he announced. "You are requested to confirm legal status." Lyra froze for a moment. Her heart seemed to stop. Kyle placed a calm hand on her shoulder. "It's all right," he whispered. She stepped forward. The inspector looked at his screen. "Debt has been paid. However, transfer of ownership is not equal to transfer of citizenship or contract identity. A sponsorship declaration must be filed within 24 hours. Failure to do so will result in reassignment. Lyra swallowed. Reassignment? Meaning I could be sold again? Yes, the inspector replied without emotion. Unless a legal human sponsor signs for you. Kyle stood straight. I will sign. The inspector raised an eyebrow. You do not have the required diplomatic authorization. Your employment level is insufficient. Sponsorship requires Earth Embassy clearance. Kale felt his stomach tighten. Earth Embassy, sponsorship, clearance. There was only one person he knew with that authority. Mara, his girlfriend. The inspector continued. If a sponsor with proper authority does not sign within the required time, the station will reassign the subject according to labor need. If she is fortunate, she may receive basic work. If not, destination is unknown, a word that carried fear. Lyra stared at the ground. Her hands clenched, but she did not cry. Kyle stepped forward. We will take care of it. The inspectors nodded and left the workshop, leaving silence behind them. Lyra let out a slow breath. So now I understand. She turned to Kale, her voice soft but steady. You must talk to her. To Mara. Kale closed his eyes briefly. He knew this moment would come. But he had hoped somehow it could wait, that maybe things would settle before he had to explain. But life does not wait for the perfect time. He took a deep breath. Yes, I have to tell her. Lyra lowered her eyes. I am sorry. I know this will hurt her. Kyle shook his head. No, it's not your fault. But Lyra looked up again, and this time her voice was calm and firm, the voice of someone choosing her own path. Kyle, I am asking you to tell her. Not to lie. Not to hide me. I do not want to be a secret. I want to be free. Her words were clear. Not emotional. Not demanding, just true. Kale nodded slowly. I understand. The rest of the shift passed quietly. Lyra continued working, but her thoughts were elsewhere. Kale checked tools, tightened panels, and finished repair logs. But his mind was heavy. The weight of truth is heavy because we cannot run from it. When the shift ended, Kale cleaned his hands and walked toward the door. Lyra stood beside him, holding her tool case. I will stay in the workshop for now, she said. Until things are decided. Kyle nodded, and for a long moment neither spoke. Then Lyra said something unexpected. Something gentle, simple, and deeply human. No matter what happens, thank you for not leaving me alone. Kale felt something tighten in his chest. Not pain, but understanding. He had made the right choice that day. Even if it was difficult now, he turned and left. The walk to the residential sector felt longer than usual. Kale's steps were slow. His thoughts were loud. The hallway lights reflected off the polished metal floor like stars beneath his feet. He reached the door to his home.
He could hear faint music playing inside. Mara always played music while cooking. Kale paused.
His heart beat once, twice. Then he entered. Mara was at the table adjusting food portions on small plates. She looked up with a warm smile, the kind that makes a place feel like home. You're back. She walked to him and hugged him lightly. You worked late again? Kale didn't hug back immediately. His arm stayed still. Mara sensed it instantly. She pulled back, her expression changing. Kyle, what's wrong? Kale opened his mouth to speak, but the words felt heavy, like they did not want to leave. I need to tell you something, he began. Mara's face tensed. Not with anger, not yet. With concern. What happened? Kale looked into her eyes, and for the first time since the exchange hall he felt fear. Not fear of Mara herself, fear of disappointment, fear of breaking something delicate, fear of losing the future they had planned. He sat down. Mara sat across from him. Kale took a quiet breath. There was a human girl in the exchange hall yesterday. Her name is Lyra. She was in contract debt. They were going to sell her labor contract. I paid her debt. Mara did not speak. Her face did not change. Kale continued, his voice low. I used our savings. Silence. Deep, heavy silence, thick as gravity. Mara blinked once. All of it? She asked quietly. Yes, another silence. This one longer. Mara stood up slowly, but she didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just walked to the window and stared at the stars outside the glass barrier. Why? She asked, but the word was not angry. It was tired. So tired. Kale swallowed. Because I couldn't leave her there. She was alone. Completely alone. Mara closed her eyes. And now? Kale's voice was barely above a whisper. She needs a sponsor, someone with embassy clearance. Mara turned, and for the first time, Kyle saw hurt in her eyes. Quiet hurt, not loud. Kyle, you want me to sign her freedom? Kale nodded slowly. Mara didn't speak. Kale didn't speak. The silence between them was not empty. It was full of everything they felt but could not say. Outside, the stars of Astra 9 continued to shine, bright, distant, and patient. Inside, 3 lives balanced on a moment of truth, and tomorrow a decision would have to be made. The colony was quiet at night, as it always was. The small settlement sat on the far side of the planet Trilon 5, a world shared by both humans and the graceful alien race known as the Serani. Artificial lampposts gave a soft blue glow along the streets, and a cool wind moved through the metallic houses, making a gentle singing sound. Most of the colony slept peacefully, unaware of anything unusual. It looked like any ordinary night, calm, silent, harmless. But inside one house, a young human man named Elias Hart couldn't sleep. Elias was 26 years old, calm in nature, thoughtful, and known in the colony as a reliable engineer. He had repaired half the power stations and had helped build the water generators when he first came here. People respected him because he was not loud or proud. He simply helped. He believed that every person deserved support, no matter their species. He was sitting at his table working on a small mechanical drone when he heard a knock at the door. Knock. Knock. The sound was soft, almost shy. Elias raised his head, slightly surprised. No one visited him at this hour. The colony usually slept early and work began at sunrise. He placed the tool down and went to the door. When he opened it, he stopped for a moment. Standing there was Lirana, his neighbor. She was a Serani woman, tall and elegant, with smooth silver-blue skin that reflected the nightlight. Her hair was long and white, flowing like silk down her back. Her eyes glowed faintly with warm violet color. She always moved with quiet grace, like she was part of music only she could hear. She was known in the colony as the widow from the border war, the woman who had lost her husband during the conflict between their world and a hostile empire many years ago. Most people were polite to her, but distant Elias, however, treated her just like anyone else. He had spoken to her many times, shared tools, exchanged greetings, and offered help whenever needed. But tonight her expression was different. Her calm face carried worry, real, heavy worry. Elias, she spoke softly, her voice smooth and gentle. I hope I am not disturbing you. You're not, he said, stepping aside politely. Come in, she entered slowly. She stood near the table, her hands held together as if she was holding something fragile inside her mind. Elias could see her fingers trembling slightly. Please, he said, pulling a chair for her. Sit. She sat down, but her eyes stayed lowered for a moment before she looked up at him. There is something I need to ask of you, she said. Something important and something difficult, Elias nodded, listening carefully. He had learned that listening was the strongest way to help someone, she continued. When my husband passed, he left behind a memory crystal. It holds his final thoughts and his last research. But Serani laws say a widow cannot access such a crystal alone. It must be opened by someone of another species, someone trusted. Elias understood. The Serani believed that memories were powerful, that grief could cloud a person's mind, so they required someone outside the emotional bond to witness final messages. Lyrana's voice shook as she added, And I trust you, Elias, more than anyone. For a moment, Elias felt something warm, respect, responsibility. He did not know her deeply, but he knew pain when he saw it, and he knew trust was not something she gave easily. I will help, he said simply. Her eyes softened, and the tension in her shoulders eased. She reached into her cloak and took out a small crystal cube that shimmered with soft light. It looked delicate, almost alive. They placed it on the table. Elias touched it with his hand. The crystal lit up and a hologram flickered into the air. It formed the shape of a Serani man, elegant, tall, with the same glowing eyes as Lyrana. The hologram smiled sadly and Lyrana's breath caught silently. Then the message began. My love and whoever is with her now, if this is being viewed, then what I feared has come to pass. Our son, our people, our future, are in danger. Elias leaned in, listening closely. The enemy we fought years ago has returned. They are moving in the dark silently. They will come to the colonies first. They will try to break us before we can unite again. They plan to attack here. This settlement. Lyrana closed her eyes. Elias felt a chill move through him, not fear, but realization. This wasn't just personal. This was warning for everyone. The hologram continued. You must prepare. You must not rely on the colony council. They will deny, delay, and hesitate. But if the colony works together, human and Serani side by side, they can hold strong. The enemy fears unity. They fear courage. The hologram flickered, fading. But one final sentence appeared. Do not run, stand, and you will survive. Then the crystal dimmed and went silent. The room was still. Lyrana slowly lowered her head, hands gripping tightly together. Her voice was quiet. I did not want to believe it. I wanted to believe peace would last. I do not wish for more loss. Not again. Elias looked at her for a long moment. He understood something in that moment. She was not only afraid of war, she was afraid of losing everything again. She had already lived that pain once, and Elias couldn't let her face it alone. He spoke softly but with firm clarity. We won't let it happen. We will prepare. We will warn people. And we will protect this place. She looked up at him, surprised not at his words, but at how naturally he said them. No hesitation. No doubt humans, she realized again, had something powerful. Not strength, not technology, but the ability to choose courage, even when afraid. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Elias Hart. He gave a small smile. We'll handle this together. The night continued quietly, but the world had changed. Outside, the wind blew across the colony, carrying the silence of a peaceful settlement unaware of the danger drawing near. The homes were dark, families sleeping under the open sky of another world. But in one small house, two people, one human, one Serani, had formed a decision strong enough to change the future. The invasion had not arrived yet. The warning had just begun, and this time, humanity would not stand aside. Humanity would stand up.